Hello. Today I have some reflections back to the theme of Epiphany. And if you recall, I mentioned that Epiphany means showing forth or revealing, taking off the covers. It's the season in this time of the church's year when we are encouraged to think about how do you find Jesus? How do you look for the Spirit of God? How do you recognize God's presence in your midst? All today's readings have the good and the bad folded in with each other, and like a twirling umbrella can look grey, when it slows down, you can see that it's actually made of black and white panels. Let's go first to the story of Eli, the old priest in the temple. He's a good guy. Samuel is a child and a good kid in the care of an old man who he must trust and honour. This good man has a bad backstory. He has sons, and they all got jobs through him as junior clergy in the temple. When people brought their gifts of a young goat or a lamb for sacrifice as a holy gift to God, after it was killed, Samuel's sons would demand the best bits for themselves, or have the best cuts removed and cooked to their personal taste. Eli confronts them about this, but they shrug him off. I imagine them as the wealthy among personalities and politicians, never short of beautiful people wanting to be at their parties. They get the best seats in the tavern, and so on. Eli loves his sons, but has let himself be rolled over by them. He himself had been a much-wanted child, but was left as a thank offering in the temple just as soon as he had been weaned. He had no family to grow up with, just whoever was priest in the temple. Little wonder he was easily broken. God told Eli that all of his family would die violently, and his sons would be punished by death, both on the same day. Only one person, God says, will be left to weep his eyes out and grieve his heart, and that's Eli. As we pick up the story, it's hard to tell whether Eli is looking after Samuel or the other way round. Poor Samuel is given the prophecy that God will utterly destroy Eli's family because he let them do evil in God's house and despise God's honour with their utter self-centered greed and privilege. Samuel has to tell this to Eli, and Eli can only say, "It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." Eli and Samuel are like two trains on the same track, both left to God in the temple while barely beyond infancy, just children. Eli does no evil and is a good man as far as we can see, but he has no strength to challenge evil. No model for how to control and guide his sons. He's like a ship without a rudder. Samuel could so easily follow him. Without parents teaching him day by day, modeling love and disciplined living, generosity and prudence, all the things you learned from family life as a kid. Here is the Epiphany question. How did Eli just let it slide? And how did Samuel pull it together? Neither are perfectly bad nor perfectly good. The difference was that somehow Samuel follows the thread of God's law. He looks for the righteousness, the mercy, and the anger, and finds in the laws that there is a good path that he can follow. The breath of God blows over us all. Eli never went looking for the thread. Eli never found the rudder. Samuel found them and learned how to make his boat go forward on the winds of God's breath. Between Eli and Samuel, where are you? You might be able to discern the parallel of Philip and Nathanael. I like this story from the Gospels. I imagine Nathaniel as a big bloke, easygoing, a little bit lazy, quick with a joke, a popular lad. Philip is, in my mind, imagination, a bit shorter, thinner, and was the kind of kid that did his homework on time. Philip is perhaps a little bit of an older brother. In a chance meeting, Jesus sees a man watching him and says, "Hey, you, come walk with me." Philip slips down from the wall he was sitting on and cuts in next by Jesus, listening carefully as he talks. He is, I think, weighing up who this guy is, and he's impressed. I've got to tell Nate about this guy, he's thinking. Philip is looking for something. Israel is in a mess. It's under occupation by Italians. It's getting worse. Trouble is coming. He's been looking and wondering about who might pull them out of this mess. As he listens to Jesus talking, it's like hearing the old scrolls being read, but this is live and direct. From the horse's mouth, this guy may just be it. I've got to tell Nathaniel. "Nate," he says when they meet, "I just met this guy from Nazareth, blah, 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 blah." Here's Nate. "That hick town, nothing good can come out of Nazareth. Get real, brother." "Come and see," says Philip. 20 minutes later, they are not far behind, and Philip drags Nate along, noisily trying to catch up. Jesus turns to look at Philip, and with a smile, and then at Nate, who is catching his breath after the rush. "Hey," says Jesus to Nate, as they come to a halt. "You're a man to be reckoned with. You are a real Israelite." "Where do you know me from?" Nate asks, caught a little off balance. "I saw you standing under a fig tree a while back," says Jesus. "I didn't know whether you'd make it. I saw you. You have it in you to be a great Israelite." Nate opens his mouth and nothing comes out, and then it suddenly all falls into place. You are the Son of God." And there's a collective gasp from the bystanders. You are the King of Israel." Isn't it odd that it is Nathaniel who sees the truth concealed in the ordinariness, who names the holiness in our midst? Philip is the, together, responsible one. He takes notes at meetings. He remembers birthdays. He reads the scrolls, for heaven's sakes. But it is not him who actually sees right into the Christ in the man Jesus. It is his big slob brother who he loves beyond all others. These are two stories of Epiphany. Stories of seeing the inside of what is going on. It is focusing on something for more than the usual 5 seconds maximum. I want to offer you a way into this for yourself. In the present day, spiritual practice like this is often called meditation or contemplation. They're slightly different tools and techniques, but both ancient and modern ways of slowing down the movie of life, in which things rush by in and out of focus very, very fast, slowing it down to notice what snags your attention. I've spoken about this before. Epiphany is about turning your focus on something that, among all the words or the ideas or the conversations that fill our days or just our imaginations, something that seems to stand out ever so slightly. There is a knack to even noticing what stands out. We live in a noisy world of radios, TVs, cell phones, and so on. 100 years ago, it was a stream of thoughts running by you. Now, it's a pressure hose of water pointing at your head. We are invited into epiphany, into noticing the showing forth by these stories. Biblical stories are never just stories. They all carry something inside them. The Spirit of God, we believe, works in these stories, hides in these stories, knowing who is reading, watching you, wishing for you, hoping for you, that you will notice and pick up that word, that phrase, that idea, that image that could touch you and heal you and change your life. So here's the basic technique. Sit somewhere quiet, sit quite upright. Read one of the stories or the gospel passages, just short bits, no more than one page. Get the plot. Then read it again, maybe imagining it as if you were there, but read it again slowly, looking for what snags your attention, your curiosity, or confusion. Notice what catches you and stop there. You don't have to read the whole thing. Stop there and read that little piece again. Hold it until the dust of your concentration settles. You might end up with a word or a phrase or an image. Then hold that in your mind and run it past where your heart and soul and mind have been going recently. See if there's a connection between this little piece of the Bible and what's going on in your life. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes that word is speaking to something else. Then just turn it around in your mind, as you might a pebble that you picked up on the lake shore. Just turn it around, hold it, feel its weight. Do this knowing whose presence you are in. You're trying to put yourself in the presence of the Holy Spirit, undistracted, holding something in your heart that you believe the Holy Spirit may have put there. You might come out with a full idea. You might come out with just a word, and that's enough. Write it in a little notebook or a paper and stick it on the fridge door. Return to it tomorrow. Keep doing this week by week or day by day. You might be surprised by what happens. Amen. Now, I always have difficulty switching off. Bye-bye.